Good morning from Peru. It's Jorge Isaac Torres Manrique, President to the Interdisciplinary School of Fundamental Rights, Pravenida Justitia. Very honored and grateful to the prestigious Kofani Moscow State Law University Moscow City Duman Russian International Affairs Council and the Dr. Maria Ergorova. In this opportunity, I talk about the lights, shadows, challenge of the Brics. The Brics, in principle, first, have become a symbol of the growing economics and geopolitical influence of developed countries since its creation in 2006. This group has experienced remarkable economic growth, challenge the world order led by Western powers. However, throughout the BRICS consolidation, it's not without obstacles and challenge. This analysis will explore the lights, shadows, and challenge facing this group, covering issues such as economic cooperation, political integration, sustainable development, and global influence. The BRICS are the crossovers, their economic growth and growing global influence offer opportunities for development and cooperation, but also present significant challenge. To realize their full potential, the BRICS must address social inequality, promote sustainable development, strengthen political cohesion, and increase their influence in global governance. The future of this group will depend on this ability to overcome this challenge and work together to build a more just and equitable world. In this sense, this opportunity not only focus on develop the capital and transcendent subject of the light shadows or challenge of the BRICS, but also concludes, among other points, that the global and the specific agendas of each country should prevail of over those of the BRICS. In this case, we talk the, to the lights. The enlargement of the BRICS was agreed reconciling the different interests within the group. On the one hand, the geopolitical need to China and Russia as an exhibition of not only economic and technological power vis-a-vis the United States and the Western Alliance, but also of political power within the tectonic plate movements in the world order as the clear challenge to them. On the other hand, there is position of Brazil and India, which is not anti-Western, but rather as search to better conditions in their negotiations, which explains the incorporation of Argentina promoted by Brazil, as well as Egypt and Ethiopia promoted by South Africa. Another important use is to meet the demands for the inclusion of the global south in the construction of the less asymmetrical economic order and closer to multilateralism, which in the path taken by Brazil of India, a demand that involves reforming to the multilateral trade system, as well as the monetary fund, the World Bank, and the UN system. Within the framework of harmony, there is also a reference to a trade exchange mechanism that take into account the use of national currencies other than the dollar. In this is perspective that the renewed BRICS should move forward. Thus, the BRICS with their evolution into the BRICS Plus, I am to continue a process of building an international space that can be oriented towards two possible future projects depending on the evolution of the international recompositions and power relations. The first consists and the positions to the BRICS Plus as the instrument and the negotiation are made and the imposing a multipolarity that responds and their interests. The second is the graduality from and the counter hegemonic alliances around China and secondary Russia, a coalition of countries recalcitrant to the domination of the United States of and other Western powers aligning with the police of the world's leading power. Thus, the largest bloc, not called the emerging economics bloc 6, seeks to open the global finance system different from that of the West. They by the United States as well as its our currencies to bypass the capitalist financial institutions. This project will certainly be easier for India, which has advancement towards the digitalization of these currencies and has promoted the bankarization of this immense population, the largest in the world. About the shadows, we talk some of the current or potential limitations of the BRICS in coordinate their actions of the international level, which have been mentioned are trade divergence in environmental matters, dissimilar nuclear status, internal rivalries, China and India, political system of different natures and different in weight or influence of the international chessboard. This circumstance, among others, will be the ones that will be giving rise to the relatively fragile BRICS with a lack of clear common objectives and the maker tendency towards rhetorical behavior. Not unrelated to this fear that China's hegemonies will be consolidated only within the bloc, but also in regions such as Latin America and Africa, with the expansions of the investment has been growing the almost 3 decades now. In, on the other hand, it is not the same to the thing of the BRICS and the alternative group of the West. Instead, they being an anti-Western bloc, and this different in conception could generate friction within the bloc, especially considering that decisions are made consensus. In, then we talk about the challenge of the BRICS. The complexity relates to the difference in the nature of the political system of the BRICS, which the possesses as the most profound of the and the structural of all, while none of the states comprising the group in questions can be identified as model or high quality democracies. There is a very marked difference trend between on the other hand Russia and China, and the other hand India, Brazil or South Africa. The nature of the domestic political regime of each state is likely to influence the general direction of their cooperation. We could imagine tendencies toward a more pragmatic and developed cooperation in the case of EBSA, as well as growing ideologies and dogmatic and anti-hegemonist in the cases of Russia and China, although other factors also play a role. China's pragmatic, peaceful rise could be a mere stage a long one to be sure in a process of consolidation as an authoritarian or totalitarian world superpower to which ex-Egyptians a strong concentration of power could be bidding. Somehow, democracies get along better with other democracies, and this seems to be increasing the case in times of advanced globalization. The great distribution of power, of the stronger pressure of public opinion, led democratic states to adopt pattern behavior oriented towards a broader and more general interest, which makes cooperation between them easier, more sustainable, and more effective. Also, the are mentioned above, the internal political regimen of each state is not the only factor conditional to external conduct. In the times globalization, the certain sexually uh, analysis in the context in the context of the progressive and determinate reconfiguration of the international order and the power relation within the Brics Plus constitute a space whose contours are evolving and which today attracts and groups together and growing number to countries of the South from Latin America, Africa, and Asia, forced to negative to navigate uh, the increasing turbulent currents in the international arena produced by the evolution of growing tensions and systematic rivalries between China and the United States in a war where no single power or group of powers can exercise leadership capable of imposing its balances in all. Each country is developed transactional and pragmatic strategies aimed primarily at reinforces its immediate interests and gaining autonomy. In this context, for these countries, joining or approaching Brics Plus responds less to a logic of adherence to the predetermined ideological calm than to the search for the diversification of the partnership and alliances aimed and reduce economic, political, and strategic dependence that are too strong or exclusive vis-a-vis the two rival powers to the 21st century, and this therefore the natural intensive and evolution is in these systems um, mm, rivalry will the simplificative determine the future from the path of the Brics Plus. The Brics partnership inaugurates a new phase of pragmatism of heralding a new order world. The one UN is the reference and essential factor for the world peace and progress, where multilateralism in the instruments and the stops the impositions of the powerful. There is order, even more urgent issues to be solved in the inequality. The UN child's chiefs can was to take actions in the face of humanity rates challenge and they present their our assessment in the most global all scenarios. There is no more time to lose. However, the troubles concerning international balances are being decided by the countries willing decisive uh, influence on the war affairs. This does not spare us from surfing to the consequences from a group that only saw reinforce its particular developed plans in solidarity. The BRICS not pretends to change the world war. The PNA must have its response ready. On the other hand, it's clear that while technology investment and trade will be importantly used on the table, on the concerns of the discussion between the strong links economic and the BRICS countries could be Brian and the gap on the interests in environmental use and setting priorities. However, BRICS enlargement also poses internal challenge that could affect the cohesions on the bloc in the future, reigning and the territorial conflicts and the strategic difference. Then we talk about the conclusions. The BRICS lights must be assumed as a catalyst that seeks empathetic rapprochement. However, such inclusion should not only be considered for the members, but also for the new ones. Uh, this with the understanding that the interests of its powerful members will not necessarily be those of the new members. Thus, joining the BRICS does not imply seeing an adhesion contract or a blank check. The shadows and challenge of the BRICS constitute points of urgent pending agenda in order to the making their consolidation in preponderance viable. With it is true what the expansion of the BRICS membership was embraces its response to the different interests within the group, such as expansion poses a challenge within the group, such as territorial conflicts, strategic difference, among others. Such expansions poses challenge within the group, such as territorial conflicts, finally destabilizing the BRICS. Ergo, the growth of the BRICS must be understood and matter substantive and legitimacy rather than a mere increase in the number of members. They indicate a reconfiguration of the BRICS towards a new world order requires caution, attention, and reflection. The global and country-specific agendas must prevail over those of the BRICS. Finally, like suggestions, we talk about the BRICS need to understand their auspicious scenario must be understood in a responsibility manager establishes bridges of debate understanding and in order the land in the common interest of its members. The attention of the shadow and challenge of the BRICS must be assumed as part of the interests of all members. The eventual establishment of a new world order must be assumed observing the international balances and rights of the countries of the world, whether they belong to the BRICS or not. Establishes finally and attending to essentially and urgent points on the global agenda. Thank you very much for your attention.